Welcome to the Off the Tools podcast, in association with the Worcester Bosch 8000 Lifestyle Range, with your host, Wayne Bettess.
Welcome to this episode of Off the Tools. My name is Wayne Bettess, and today I have the pleasure of being joined by Joseph Valente. Welcome to the show, Joseph.
Hi Wayne, how you doing? Thanks for having me on.
No, you're more than welcome. Thank you for your time. I know you're a busy man, but I've been messaging you for a while, and obviously now everything's on lockdown. It seemed a perfect opportunity to get this tied up and get this out there really. So how are you coping with lockdown?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. I'm trying to speak to as many people at the moment, add as much value as I possibly can. And your podcast is awesome. You've got great community, great listeners, and one that's very relevant to my sort of background. So I'm hoping people are going to enjoy this and I can share my experiences and add a lot of value. But yeah, I'm kind of a little bit bittersweet about what's happening right now. It's difficult for businesses. It's terrible for the economy, but it's great for the environment and the world. And I think it's given people a chance to reflect what they actually want from their lives. And, looking forward, it's about, for me, making sure that, whatever we get out of I like to keep calling it the new world, but whatever we get out of the new world, is actually meaningful for us, our careers and our families, making sure that we're just appreciating everything a whole lot more. It's really made me feel that way.
I was talking to my wife earlier, and I sort of said, it seems like maybe one of the lessons from this is going to be about sort of slowing things down a little bit. And like you just said, sort of appreciating what we actually have and what we've got in our own lives. So yeah, I always look for a positive in any negative. So, I echo what you just said there, definitely. Right. Obviously, not everyone knows you, but obviously you are probably one of the most famous plumbers. Not that you do it anymore, but one of the most famous plumbers out there at the moment. Can you just go through your journey? Do you know where you come from? You just let my listeners know who is Joseph Valente and how did you get where you are?
So I grew up in a city called Peterborough, in quite a little village, really. We came from pretty humble beginnings. My mum worked 3 jobs. She worked she was a cleaner. She worked 3 jobs to keep our family alive for really miserable wages, like £3 an hour. She was such a hard working woman. And my dad was an alcoholic, didn't work, unemployed, wasn't a good guy. And I grew up in quite a difficult household. It was not a nice place. We struggled for money, we struggled for food, we struggled for happiness. And if there was one thing that I always remember thinking from, being a kid, was that I was never, ever, ever going to live the life that I had to live as a child. And I was going to make sure that I built something very special. Number one, to pay my mum back. That was always the dream, to get her into retirement and sort her out at the back end of her life, to say thank you. But more importantly, make sure that my kids had everything that I didn't. And I'm not talking about money, materialistic objects, but making sure that I was a good dad, making sure that I was supportive, making sure that I helped them, and motivated them. And they had someone to look up to, not to look down on. I was embarrassed of my dad. I'm not afraid to say it. He wasn't a role model. I hated the guy, and it spurred me on to become a much better man. So that was kind of like how I grew up. It was difficult, very challenging. At the age of 13, my dad left, and I'm 30 now, and I haven't spoken to him since.
Wow.
And I basically became, a delinquent. I was a delinquent teenager. I had no rules. My mum couldn't control me. I was, I hated the world. I hated everybody around me. I hated authority. I couldn't accept it. And I was always a very smart young man. I wasn't stupid, but school was difficult for me. I was going through tough times at home anyway. And, I just wanted to challenge authority. I didn't want to be there. I hanged around with the wrong crowd. And by the time I was 15, they expelled me. At that point, basically, everybody had given up on me. I wasn't in a good place. My life was set for a very bad path. I was hanging around with 18, 19, 20-year-olds that weren't good people either. And, you know, it was difficult. And I remember 2 months after being expelled, and I sat there and, you know, I realized that there was no one left anymore. No one cared. No one was bothered. They were sick of hearing my excuses. They were sick of standing up for me. You know, everybody had given up and there was no one there except for these group of guys that, you know, weren't going anywhere in their lives.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, I've got to do something about this. I've got to make a change. Like, no one's coming to save me. If I don't do something with my life right now, I'm going to waste it. And, you know, and I felt like, and I always have done, that I'm destined for great things and that I can turn my mind and achieve whatever I want. And, you know, that I don't want to waste this one opportunity in life that we were being given. So I went and approached the local plumber. My best friend, his cousin, had just started a plumbing business, Darren Boardman. And, you know, he was like this cool guy that was 25, had a BMW, really good looking girlfriend, you know, and to a 15-year-old, that was cool.
Yeah.
And he was earning loads of money. And, you know, that was when, you know, back in, I can't even think what year it was, 15 years ago. So 2005, that was when, you know, plumbers were making good money and it was being, everybody was talking about get a trade and so on. And so I went to him and I said, look, can I come and work for you for free for a year? I should be in school, but I've got nothing better to do. I'll come every day on time, be the perfect employee, and you don't have to pay me. Just teach me everything that you know. And then by the time I'm 16, start paying me, put me in college, and then we go from there. Of course, he said yes.
Yep.
And I basically went every single day for a whole year. And when I turned 16, he agreed and put me in college. But plumbing basically saved my life. It changed me. It gave me purpose. It gave me motivation. It gave me, you know, education. And, you know, I was just happy to not be in the park every day hanging around with these guys and actually going and learning something from somebody that I really looked up to. So that kind of took me to 16, how I entered into the construction industry. And kind of that's where my life really started to change for the positive. And that's where it all began.
Wow. Okay. Excellent. So then from that you know, there's lots of similarities in that story with me. I got asked to leave school a bit late, a bit earlier than everybody else, and plumbing was like, again, was this the thing for me that stopped me following a path that could have led to other things. And yeah, so it's funny to have a very similar story there. So then,
and I think there's a lot of, just on that, Wayne, sorry to interrupt you,
that's all right.
I mean, there's a lot of guys in construction right now, you know. I think there's a lot of guys like us in construction that didn't go to university, didn't necessarily have the best starts, but, you know, and I always felt like construction was the way that the less smart people went, instead of going to uni. And I felt like we were ushered that way. But, you know, to any young people listening into this right now that want to get into a trade or are in their apprenticeships, remember, construction is an opportunity for you to springboard platform to start your own business, to work for great companies and build very successful careers. And, you know, if you're worried about being paid small amount of wages in your apprenticeship, don't worry about that. It's your stripes. You need to earn them. You need to do what your bosses tell you, and you need to learn the trade. And if you do so, you can springboard and have a very successful career.
Yeah, and I always see it as, like, so it used to be looked down on. Nowadays, for me personally, I'm so grateful for it because it's my safety net. You know, I always know that my hands and my knowledge and my tools can make me a living. So even in uncertain times that we're, like, especially in this sort of day and age that we're living in right now, it's so valuable to have that manual skill set that can't be taken away. And
couldn't agree more with that.
I push and recommend people to look at construction as a real career choice because it's gives so much opportunity and so much freedom that a lot of other jobs and a lot of other professions just don't have at all, do they? So
yeah, I agree.
So what was it that pushed you to set your own business up then? How did that come about?
Okay, so I went through the college, and by the time I was 18, qualified plumber. Then I took out a £6,000 loan and did one of those short-term gas courses. Because at the end of my apprenticeship, they weren't. I was working for a company that did new build work for McCarthy and Stone, and it was like old people's retirement homes. So they didn't have gas boilers. It was electric water heaters at that time. So I didn't have enough to go through to regional college and do my portfolio. So I basically, at the time I was qualified, literally on the day, I said to my boss, right, you're paying me 25 quid a day now. Will you put me up to 60? And he said, no, and at that time I'd been doing it for 3 years. So I was fitting a bathroom suite in a day on site like the rest of the guys that were getting paid, £200 a day. So I didn't think I was asking for a lot of money. And he said no. And that day I opened up the back of the Sun newspaper and I saw that there was an opportunity to go on this gas course. So I literally called up my boss. I said, are you sure you don't want to pay me that money? And he said, no, I'm only going to give you 50. I said, right, okay, I quit. Took out this £6,000 loan and went and lived in Rotherham for 6 months and studied on this gas course. Did the gas course, went all the way through it and, had a lot of knowledge anyway from the plumbing side of things. So I'd worked from various plumbers in my apprenticeship. And by the time I was 19, I was qualified gas engineer. So I then worked on the tools for various repair and maintenance and servicing companies till I hit 22. And that was basically when I decided to launch InfraGas.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Do you want to jump in or do you want me to keep rolling?
Keep rolling for now. So yeah.
Keep rolling. Okay, yeah. Cool. So basically I hit 22 and I was getting really frustrated. Yeah. And I was servicing boilers. I was doing maintenance work. And I just felt like, wow, is this all I'm going to be doing? I'm 22 now for the rest of my days. I was getting 40 grand a year. It was okay salary. I had my own apartment and my own car. And, I was doing okay compared to other 22-year-olds. Yeah. But I just felt like I wanted more. I felt like I could add more value to the industry. I felt like the industry was very stuck in its ways. I didn't see anybody innovating or trying to bring more value to customers or trying to, change the way that it was done. I saw so many of my bosses wait for the phone to ring. It was madness. And I couldn't understand why they would accept that there was quiet periods and that when there was quiet periods, they weren't going out and proactively searching for work to ensure that work was coming in to keep us busy and money on the table and so on. So, I decided to change the way that the industry looked at plumbing and heating and so on, and decided that I was going to give it a go. I'd been in the industry long enough. I knew my stuff. I didn't have a clue about running a business.
I think most of us small business owners do that, don't they? They jump straight in without any sort of training on the business aspect of life.
I know, it's like, right, I can get a van, I can get an invoice pad, and I can do the job, you know, and I can make more money doing it for myself than I can working for this guy, right? That is every tradesman's initial thought, and that was exactly mine. But it wasn't just that. I genuinely wanted to change the way we approach selling to our customers. So I thought, always proactive rather than reactive. I'll never wait for the phone to ring. I'll go out and hunt my work down. So decided to buy a £1,500 Transit Connect. So firstly, I took out a £15,000 loan from Tesco's. It was a home development loan. It wasn't for business. I didn't want to wait. I didn't want to write a business plan. I didn't want to do any of that. I wanted to buy the van tomorrow and I wanted to start at the end of the week. That's the type of guy that I am. Once I make a decision, I go for it. So I did just that. I bought a van, 1,500 quid. I bought some tools. I bought the uniform. I bought the pads. Spent 700 on a website. And I had about 8 grand left that was sat in the bank in case I didn't find any work. Branded the company InfraGas. You know, once again, an important lesson for people getting into business. Whatever you brand your business in the early days, remember how far you want to take it. So I always say begin with the end in mind. I always started Infra with the vision for it to become national. So I wanted to make sure I created a corporate identity. I didn't want to call it JV's Plumbing and Heating because I knew that had a ceiling, and on the national stage, it wasn't necessarily going to be taken as a national business. So just a little lesson about branding there.
I'd agree on that, definitely. yeah, if you, like, the word you used there was start with the end in mind, and that's so important because you need to have a destination that you want to achieve, you want to hit, otherwise you're just there's a saying, a wandering generality or something, and it's where you just have no idea what you're doing. You're just sort of wandering around doing one job to the next with no vision of where it is that you're aiming for.
I think spot on. And one of the biggest things that I've noticed since being a coach and coaching businesses is that so many business owners don't have a focus. It's, we're taking more work or we're growing, but to what means, to what ends, why are you taking these opportunities? And you just get stuck in the motion and, what is the final destination? And once you've decided that, you start tying back all of your decisions that drive, the opportunities and the actions to contribute to that end goal. But we'll pick up on that one a bit later on. I think. But, so I decided to call it Impra, which is basically improvise and entrepreneur in Latin. So somebody told me that they had a solar company and they put solar into good Latin to English, and it came out with Aurora. So I decided to do the same, and it came out with Impravio, and that's where Impra was born. And it kind of gave me, something to be proud of, like an entrepreneurial DNA. It ran through the company. It ran through the veins of it. And, every time I said it, I was proud to promote it and sell it and push it. And, it was pride, when you wear it on your shirt, you wear it with pride. So I love the name. It had a deep meaning to me. And then I did something probably a little bit different to other business owners at this point. I kind of did the same, but I did something a little bit different. So I posted on Facebook. I got some leaflets made. I got business cards made. I made a website. I started telling my mates. I made a Facebook page and sent it out to all my 500 friends and got them to like it. And, and then the phone didn't ring within the first 24 hours. So I'm like, right, okay. I need to get volume work. I wanted to grow, Wayne. So I know that I needed Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Sorry, I know that Mr. and Mrs. Smith weren't going to be enough for me. Yeah. Acquiring an outside tap or a sink change or a boiler change every now and then wasn't going to provide growth. So whenever you want growth, you need consistent levels of work, consistent quantifiable levels of work, and a good solid plan so you can start to build your business around it. So I decided to hit the property management market. I wanted property maintenance to go after landlords so I could get lots of repairs, installations, and they were going to give me bulk work. So when I say earlier about I wanted to change the perception of the industry, the way that naturally construction has the old builder, trousers, halfway down his bum, dirty shirt on, late, dirty invoices, dirty van, and so on. Yeah, that's kind of the perception a lot of people have about the construction industry, whether we like it or not. That's what they would draw if you said to me, draw a builder, right? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%.
So I went to Moss, right, Moss Bros, and I spent, out of that 15 grand I took out, I spent £500 on a pinstripe suit. It was the first suit I'd ever bought. I'd never worn a suit. I always went to work in dirty workman's clothes, and I always wanted to try what it was like to put a suit on. So I bought this suit. Then I bought a briefcase and I bought an umbrella. Didn't have anything in the briefcase, took the umbrella with me, and I decided to hit the high street. So I was walking up and down Peterborough High Street, walking into estate agents with this umbrella, with this briefcase, dressed in a pinstripe suit, going in and pitching, hi, I'm Joseph Valente. We offer 24/7 emergency breakdown, repair, installation. I could start today, start tomorrow, whatever you need. They're super enthusiastic, super young. And they're looking at this guy like, who the hell is this guy? He's coming in here dressed like a banker, and he's trying to promote plumbing services. And I think that angle really worked for me because it shocked them. And then they saw what image I was trying to create for my plumbing business. So, anyway, long and short of it is they all turned me down. I went to about 50 estate agents that day, rejection after rejection. And then I went home, a little bit deflated, demotivated. I had a power flush to do the next day from one of my friends off Facebook. And then I thought, right, on Thursday, I'm going back to these estate agents. There's no way I'm giving up. So I put the same suit on because I only had one. I tried to change the tie so it didn't look like I was wearing the same thing. And then I went back in there and I said, look, hi, it's me again. They said, look, we told you we would contact you. What you doing back here? And I said, well, you know, I'm hoping that somebody's gone off sick, or, you know, you've booked too much work or something like that. And anyway, lo and behold, I came out of that day with 2 new estate agents signed up. One had a 600 home portfolio and one had a 250 home portfolio. And they actually were desperate for contractors, but they didn't tell me on my first visit, because I think they wanted to see what I was about, how hungry I was, and if I was going to deliver. Yeah. Anyway, the next day, 30 works orders landed in my inbox, 30 of ball valves, maintenance, PCBs, gas safeties that were 10 weeks overdue. It was insane. The next day, 30 jobs, you know, and I was working 6 a.m. till 10, 11 o'clock at night, because these people hadn't had these maintenance jobs done for so long. This went on for a week. I took my first apprentice within 1 week of starting the company. I employed my first plumber within 1 month of starting the company. I had my first office above an estate agent within 6 months. And then I kind of, if we just fast forward to when I was 25, so I've been in business 3 years. This is before the apprentice.
Yeah.
I had 7 plumbers working for me. We were doing about $500,000 a year, small office above an estate agent, and about 3,000 homes on contract, just by dominating the estate agent market, but using, you know, a different perception of how they saw the industry. Like, I was on time. My customer service was insane. I answered the phone 24 hours a day. Whenever they needed a job done, it was done. You know, and that reputation basically allowed me to conquer all of the property management stores or whatever you want to call them in Cambridgeshire. And, you know, we became number 1 in that marketplace. And, you know, there's some good lessons there for people. Number 1, change the perception. You know, number 2, if you get rejected, don't give up. And number 3, you know, if just because somebody's already doing it doesn't mean you can't do it better.
Yep. No, 100% agree. Again, it's scary how similar this is to how I built my first business. And we'll I won't bore everyone with that again. We'll come to that later if it gets brought up. But it's really refreshing to hear that you had all these fresh ideas and do it. And I think the key, sometimes there's the risk of just being different for different sake. But in our industry at that time, there would have been no one doing that. I wouldn't have thought, you know, turning up in a pinstripe suit. At first, I bet it just broke down some barriers, at least, you know, because they were just like, wow, who is this guy? So yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, it got them thinking. Like I say to everybody, don't be afraid to stand out. Like, there's 7 loaves of bread on the shelf. You know, when you walk into a supermarket, you've got to pick one. Why are they going to pick you? If you look like everybody else, if you sound like everybody else, if you taste like everybody else, then you're not going to be at front of the pack. So, you know, you've got to be different and not afraid to be different, and, you know, do what you've always done, get what you've always got. And the reason I believe that I was able to grow so quickly, you know, and everybody thinks I grew and had impact because of the apprentice. I did very well before the apprentice, and we did that because I was simply prepared to do what the competition won't. Yeah. You ring Joe at 4 o'clock in the morning, Joe will be at that property in 20 minutes. You know, like, my level of customer service was just so, you know, on point that, you know, they just couldn't want to choose anybody else. So, you know, and the other thing on this as well is, if you want to impact a very noisy market, everybody thinks that the plumbing game or the plumbing and heating industry, you know, is very crowded. And don't get me wrong, it is. But it's only crowded if you're like everybody else. So the simplest way to get ahead in business is to do what the competition won't do. And you can put minor tweaks on your business model, and it makes you stand out, you know, leaps and bounds of the competition. Line yourself up against 10 plumbers, and if you're slightly different than the other 9, then you're going to look like you're innovating and disrupting, and, you know, and spearheading the industry. And people will see that value, and you will get the lion's share of the work.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with everything you've been saying so far. So let's fast forward a little bit. Obviously, you went on the national TV program, The Apprentice. If it's okay, I don't want to dismiss it, but I don't want to go into too much detail about it. Just briefly, what made you do it? Did you genuinely believe you could win it, as at the time you was like a small plumbing business, or not small, but you know what I mean? Yeah, and then we'll crack on with what happened after, if that's all right.
Okay, so the reason I decided to go on it was because I hit 25. We were doing okay. I had $500,000 turnover, 7 plumbers working for me. But I was a plumber that had started a plumbing business. I wasn't a plumber that knew how to run a big business. And I wanted to go national, and, you know, I needed support. So number one, I needed mentorship, right? I didn't have anybody around me. Everything I was doing was on my own. I was learning as I was going, and there was no business advisors, no support. No, nobody teach me how to put in infrastructure, systems, processes, financials, you know, growth strategies, forecasts. I didn't have any of that. I just had ambition, and everything was running through my head. So I knew I'd hit my ceiling, and I needed support to get to the next level from somebody that had been there and done it. Number two, I needed cash. I needed to grow, so you needed cash investment. And then number three, I wanted exposure. I knew that I wanted to be seen as number one in the UK, so I knew I had to get in front of, you know, I needed some people to somehow see my name. And The Apprentice came along, and you know, it was one gloomy night on January the 9th. I came in, and there was I got my phone out. I was real depressed at the time, lost my mojo, lost my motivation. And Lord Sugar's page came up, and it said final call to win The Apprentice. And I'm a very spiritual person, believe it or not. And I'm very into the law of attraction, and I live my life by it daily. And I've used it to achieve a lot of things in life. And people that don't believe in it, research it, because it really can make everything you ever want come true. And, you know, one thing I didn't say, in 2012, when I started Impra, my mum bought me Lord Sugar's autobiography for Christmas, and I read it back to back for 3 weeks. And that made me make the jump to start my own business. So I always knew that I was going to meet him or work with him. Now, I believe that the universe gives you signs. And when opportunity comes along, if you're ready to receive it and you're looking for it, you'll know that it's that time and that is meant for you. And I saw that page, and within me, I knew that was my moment. I don't know why. I don't know how. I just knew something was right. And I knew from that very moment that I was going to win that show. And everybody says, right, did you go onto the show thinking that you were going to win? I mean, who goes into a competition thinking that they're going to lose? You know, true. You have to enter every competition thinking that you're going to come out of there victorious, or don't bother entering the competition, right? So, you know, did you really ever think you were going to win? Of course I did, as I wouldn't have wasted my own time. No,
that again, that makes perfect sense there, because like you wouldn't get in a boxing ring thinking you're gonna lose, would you? You know, you've got to have that self-belief.
Or 80%. You know, you're not going to go in there half thinking or 70% thinking. You've got to go 100%. And that's, you know, you have to believe against all odds that you can do it. And it comes from that internal belief. And you have to back yourself, because nobody else is going to back you. You know, and to be honest, I'd spent my life battling for myself, and nobody was backing me since day one. So I always had that brutal, punishing, you know, self-belief that I have to do this because I've got to prove a point type thing. Does that make sense? So, you know, that always stuck with me from very, very young.
Right. So then obviously you smashed it on Apprentice. Many of us watched that show and you know, watched your journey and watched everything unfold. How did it feel waking up that next morning knowing that Sir Alan Sugar was investing in your baby, Impra Gas?
It was crazy, but it kind of felt so, like, I'd convinced myself that I'd won that show. Like I'd become obsessed with it, right? To the point that when it happened, I finally felt relief that I wasn't mad and that I could actually achieve these things. You know, because my mum and everybody thought I was delusional, thinking that I was going to go on there and win it. So it was kind of like, wow, like actually I can set my mind to whatever I desire, and I can achieve these things. And, you know, I'm not just an expelled kid that's got into plumbing. Like, I can go on and do these special things. Like, you know, it should be seen as a motivation for so many young people out there that are struggling in life, and they haven't got any good role models around them to show them that they can go on and change their life. So it was very humbling, and I just felt so privileged and very lucky, and I just wanted to make the most of it.
Yeah. So from that point, then, obviously you already stated at the beginning that your target goal was to become a national company. So how did that next couple of years unfold with the support and investment of Sir Alan Sugar and I guess I'm presuming his team of experts that get involved with everything that goes on? What were the stepping stones to get through that?
Yeah, do you know what? It was pretty crazy, to be honest, because you win and he becomes your business partner, and then like your whole image of what their organization looks like, everybody will have their own. When I turned up there, and Lord Sugar was there, and his FD was there, and there was his assistant FD and an accountant, and that was really the team. That was who I had around me. So there was Lord Sugar, and I saw him an hour once a month, and then their accounting team really. So I went in there expecting like a crack team of every element of business, operations, marketing, sales, finance. I thought I was getting educated on all of it. And it was very much, very small, very focused around the numbers and just the board meeting, and there was no real strategy or planning coming from them. And I found it quite difficult actually after a while, because they had no idea about the industry. They weren't really offering me any value. They didn't know what markets to enter, where to go next, how to build a national operation in the field, in the service industry. So it was very limited. What they did help me with was putting in financial infrastructure and system and process and accounting and management accounts and reporting to board meetings and, just going in and board meetings with a billionaire, right? And most people, 99% of people sat in front of that guy will crumble because he's brutal, right? And you've got to go and report business performance to him every month. I was 25, 26 at the time. I was just a boy,
Is he harder off camera than he is on camera? My gut instinct would say it's a soft Alan that we see on Sir Alan that we see on TV to reality Alan.
He's very brutal. I mean, I sent him an email on Christmas Day because when you win on the 29th, it's about the 19th of December 2015 where they had the final. And on Christmas Day, I said I was 25. I sent him an email saying, Lord Sugar, thanks so much for the opportunity. Can't wait to start working with you. I'm going to do my best to make you proud. You've changed my life. I've never had an opportunity like this before. He sent me an email back saying, if you ever send me an email like that again, it's going straight in the bin. I only want bullet point format. And that was the only reply. I was like, oh, holy shit, this is what I'm going to deal with. So I knew where I stood. But listen, I'm a straight talking guy and I don't BS anybody. I like that style. Straight to the point. Say what you got to say. Let's get it done. If you've got a problem, say it. If not, let's move on and do what we've got to do. So have you ever
done any human dynamics training on like human behavior and stuff? I would definitely say if you haven't, have a little look at it. It's called DISC, and it's where you get basically they give you there's common traits in certain people, and I would say myself, I'm a what they call a red. You're a red. I'd say Alan Sugar's a red, and basically there's no time for fluff. We just want to get from right. Tell me the facts right now. Do I don't want all this namby-pamby. Hello, how are you doing? All that crap. Give me what I need to know, and let's get on with the next bit.
Yeah, exactly right. That's it. Straight to the point. Give me the facts. Make a decision, and then we
move forward. Yeah, definitely. So obviously, it must have been a stressful time as well. You're obviously you come across as a very confident man. Was there times that you thought, I'm over my head here. I ain't got a clue. I don't know what to do, or did you always maintain that sort of bullishness?
I mean, look, internally, every single day ever, right? I'm not embarrassed to say that you get overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. And every man should be able to admit that, right? All the listeners listening right now, how many times in your life have you felt like you don't know what the answer is? We don't know what we don't know. And I think that understanding and being self-aware of what you're good and what you're bad at is a good trait. And it was many times that I was stressed out of my mind, absolutely clueless on the next move. And you don't know where to go with it. You've got no one around you that understands, but no one knew what I was going through then because I was on my own. I've always been on my own, so I've always been able to fight through it. I'm a fighter, so I always come out the other end, in the best way I possibly can. But you got to know that these things aren't easy. That I was a plumber at 25 years of age, going into boardrooms, presenting financial packs. I didn't have a fucking clue what I was doing. But you know what I did? I remember the first board meeting I went into, and they sat down and they got this financial pack out. I was seeing my accountant like every other small business once a year. He was showing me the paperwork. I was going, yeah, that looks okay. Job's done. See you later. And then I'll see you again next year. Now I'm sitting in front of a billionaire having to report a board pack. There's no training for this. This is, you want to talk about jumping in the deep end. That is in the deep end. Yeah. But in all honesty, Wayne, that was the best education I could have ever asked for, because when I came out of those scenarios, as a businessman and how I develop and how I handle myself and how I can, deal with very high profile business people and hold my own and work in that light, it literally, gave me the best trajectory I could have ever imagined. But it was
money
difficult.
Can't buy, isn't it? It's money, but money can't buy stuff. That sort of experience and it's I'm
such a young age. Yeah, and I had, at the end of the day as well, I had the world watching, so it was all like that was watching, and look, for the lads, this is the lads podcast. There was lots of distractions as well. You imagine being 26 years of age and winning a national TV show,
load of money in your pocket, and
the amount of women that are available were crazy. It was an amazing time. I loved it. I had such fun, and very blessed, very privileged, very thankful for that opportunity that I was given. And look, we worked together. So to fast forward it now, we worked together for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
I flipped the estate agent model. I decided to go after boiler installations.
Yeah.
I knew that doing the small maintenance jobs wasn't going to cut it for where I wanted to go. We were going to have to do too many to make too much of an impact. So I decided to change business models. And this is what I say to a lot of people out there. Like, if you want to scale up your business, or or your business model isn't working, don't be afraid to change. It's the ones that don't change that get into trouble. So you've got to be able to adapt, overcome, and navigate. And, you've also got to understand what vehicle you're driving. If you've got dreams to become national, you can't be driving a vehicle that works for property maintenance companies. You've got to look for a bigger market, higher demand, higher order value, better margin.
Yeah.
So, you've got to be taking all these things into consideration of, does this vehicle here get me to my end destination? If it doesn't, get out and get in a new one. And, I took that model to them, and they kind of agreed it, because they didn't really know what they were talking about anyway. But what the property maintenance model wasn't working anymore, because we got too big, too much overhead. They were charging me huge amount. They were charging me $3,000 a month out of the 250 grand they gave me for accountancy fees. And we were a small business. Yeah. I know, it was $3,000 a month. So everyone's like, where's the money go? We end up paying it all back to them through fees. We had to pay PR fees and everything. It was insane. So anyway, we got to a point where we were doing okay. We'd grown regionally. We were doing about £1 million a year in sales. And I said to him, look, I don't want to be in this forever. I want to grow a business, and I want to, either sell it or move on or go and do something else. So I want to grow, and I want to grow quickly. So, I'm coming to these board meetings. You guys ain't giving me any value anymore. There's nothing here. I feel like I'm having to provide with the answers, and you're not helping me. So I want to go on my own. I want to grow and risk it to grow, because I want to shoot for the stars and hopefully hit the moon, because I don't want to play small. Yeah. I want to make an impact. I'm here for once, and I'd rather leave. I'd rather fail knowing that I tried than not succeed knowing that I'd never tried, if that makes sense. So, I wanted
so at that point, would you say that they were an anchor? They were holding you back a little bit, were they? Reining you in, would you say?
I'm a positive guy, and I like positive people. I like people around me that feed the energy. So one thing that you've got to learn if you're in business and you want to get investors on, make sure you get investors that are on board with you, that are motivated by the same end goal, that know about your industry, that are driven, that are motivated, that want to share ideas, not people you have to go and speak to every month because you just have to follow the structure of a board structure. That it was demotivating for me.
Yeah.
I have high energy. I don't like energy drainers. If I don't see somebody on the same vibe as me, I say, look, relationship isn't working. When you're in a negative relationship with a partner and it's not working, and you just stay in it for ages, well, you get rid of that negative energy, you become a lot happier.
Yeah.
It's the same in business partners, business investors. People get into bed with the wrong people, and it can be really draining for the model. So I just said to them, look, I'm going to go for it. You're either with me or you're not. If it fails, it will be my name that takes a hit, and you walk away without any issue. But at the end, or you stay on the front line with me and go for it. So he said to me, look, Joe, nobody's ever spoken to me like that before. I was 27 at the time. I respect you massively for where you want to go and what you want to achieve. I'll come back to you with the deal in 48 hours, and if we go ahead, we'll part ways and blah blah blah. So he came back to me with a deal. It was a good deal. I can't tell you about the financial element of it.
I didn't even write the question down because I knew there'd be no way of prizing that out of you, unfortunately.
I've had that question so many times over the last 5 years. It's insane. Over the last 3 years. So yeah, and then I was on my own. And I tell you what, that was probably one of the scariest and ballsiest moves I've ever made in my career. To be a year and a half in after winning the apprentice, but first apprentice to buy him out, first apprentice to go alone, and I still was not the businessman I am today back then. I still had so much to learn.
So I'm going to go. I'm going to go Alan Sugar on this point, right? Give me some milestones from the minute you bought him back out to when you sold the company recently. Give me some bullet point things that you achieved and didn't achieve.
Yeah, okay. So 3 years on was basically from that moment. 2.5 years on, we won National Installer of the Year. We launched in Scotland, Wales.
How many boilers at that point were you fitting?
And that September 19 was about 450 a month across the country. Wow. So it was a big, big number. Yeah. By November of 2019, we'd hit $1 million in sales in that 1 month.
$1 million in 1 month?
$1 million in 1 month. It was a huge landmark for us. We had 150 people. I was the CEO of the business. I had teams of senior managers. I became a different person. I was 18-hour days, 7 days a week, running a big operation. You know what it's like. It's hard in our industry anyway. It's not manufacture a computer, put it on a shelf and sell it. It's right. We were generating thousands of leads, sending out a national sales team, 30-man sales team, sending out installers, getting materials out there, aftercare. There's so much involved to get one job done right on a national level in every major city. It was one of the hardest companies probably to run in any industry that you can imagine. Because there were so many people involved. It was very...
I don't envy you at all. I do it on a small scale, such a small scale, and know if I had to multiply that and be doing £1 million a month, I don't know, that's enough to in this industry, you've got to have a round of applause for achieving that level of sales. That is some feat. I've got to hand you that, definitely.
Thank you. We grew big last year, and it was winning the National Installer of the Year, Wayne, in all honesty, was probably one of the proudest moments, because when I put my man in Scotland that month as well, first man in Scotland, we'd already launched Welsh. So I was like, fucking hell, I've done it in 7 years. Yeah. We've got a man in every major city, and from one man in a van to that, because I always dreamed of that. That was all I ever dreamed of. But at the same time, I knew that was my time. I knew my time was up. I knew.
So before we go further on that, I want to sorry to interrupt you there, Joseph. I'm conscious of time and stuff, and I think you're gonna answer one of the questions I wanted to ask. So, the whole point I do these podcasts is to share people's experiences, share it into the communities that I've built, and so the whole point is I like to get questions answered. And I put a post out this morning in the groups, and I've got a list of questions. We're not going to get through them all, but I want to start hitting them off if that's okay.
Right.
And the first and most obvious one is, why did you sell Improgas?
So I sold it because we got to the point where we were so big, we were having to do almost 40 grand a day in new sales just to break even. It was insanity. It was insane pressure. And we were at the size of a national business competing with British Gas, but we didn't have deep pockets. So there came a time where it was either get investment or make a sale. Yeah. But, that was on my mind for a little while. But the reality is, in December of last year, we took a massive hit. Brexit was back end of November. The market dried up. It wasn't cold. The leads literally halved overnight. We went from 1 million sales to like 450,000 in sales in 1 month. In December, it wiped our cash out, and I had to react very, very quickly. So I sold the business to like a business recovery company that had much deeper pockets. We'd grown so big in such a short space of time. What people have got to realize is, with every business, right, with growth, every business goes through restructure. So you hit a point, then you look again, you review where you're at. To keep going, you get more funding, you get restructure, and then you go on to the next level. Yeah. It's about understanding that journey. It's about understanding where you fit in with that journey, what your appetite is like, and where you go next. So we took a big hit in sales. It really wiped our cash flow. I'd come to the end anyway of my drive to keep going with the business. I didn't want to get huge investment and water down my shares. I wanted to move on anyway. So we got to a point where we were in trouble, really. We needed to do something very
this was my next question. Was it was out in the media that you sold the company, but I get a lot of people that have messaged me sort of said that it weren't really a sale. It's just basically a way of liquidating a company in a cleaner way, or whatever word you want to call it. So are you happy to stand there now and say that you sold your company, or do you feel?
So what we did was so if people understand the way that business sales are done and how they're structured and what deals are done. So what we did was something called an asset sale. So we sold our assets, we sold our brand, we sold our intellectual property, and we sold our goodwill. So that in itself there is a sale. All of our staff moved over into the new business. So we sold the business, yes. Impra Group is now going. It's had a name change. What we didn't sell was the Improgas Limited as a shell limited company. So what happened? I know where you're going with this question, because you've seen that we've sold it, and you've also seen that we liquidated VBH assets with a substantial amount of debt. Yeah. So what? Yeah, and I
don't want you to feel that I'm gunning for you, but these are questions and discussions that crop up a lot in our community, because obviously, like I said earlier, you're one of the most popular plumbers that are out there, or ex-plumbers that are out there, and I really want to get some answers or at least some understanding for us that all are wondering, so
I don't mind. Listen, I've got nothing to hide, and I will always be very honest. The whole value from somebody like myself comes in supporting and coaching businesses, is being able to tell them what has gone right, but also what has gone wrong. So when you own your failures and own your mistakes, that's important. You need to be able to understand what you've done wrong, and what you shouldn't do again. And that's how you succeed. The lessons are learned in failure, not success, right?
Would you class Improgas right now as if you had to write down a simple answer, was Improgas a success for you or a failure? What would you say?
I'd say there were many successes and there were many failures. And if you look at it like this, so let me just go back to where I was, right?
Sorry.
So we sold our assets of the business. That meant that Impragas Limited was gone. We had to change the name because they bought the brand. So then it became VBH Assets. And what that meant and the way that it was done, long and short of it, so let me tell you this, right? So I agreed a sale of the business. And then they were going to buy the assets, they were going to buy the brand, they were going to buy Impragas Limited, they were going to buy the debt. On the very last day of the negotiation, these guys knew what they were doing. They flipped it on me and said, look, we're not going to buy everything. We're just going to buy a portion of it. Mm-hmm. And we took a big hit in cash flow. So it was either, right, we're either going to have to put the whole company into administration, or we're going to make a sale out of what is there. Mm-hmm. So it meant that 150 staff kept their jobs. It meant that all of our contractors out there in the field kept their work. We had hundreds of self-employed contractors we supported as that company, and supported revenues for their families and so on. It meant that suppliers and creditors were going to be able to get ongoing trade from the new company. But mm-hmm. what it meant, Wayne, which was very horrendous and savage and horrible, was that we had to shut the company down, the existing company, with debt to creditors, and the bulk of that was for suppliers. Now,
so on that, did you make a profit from selling the business then?
I didn't know.
Right. Okay. So I think a lot of people have wondered that.
I didn't make a profit from selling the business. The business wasn't in the greatest of health.
Yeah. Okay. No, I appreciate your honesty there.
Yeah, the business had delivered a great opportunity for many. I provided and created jobs for hundreds of people. Yeah. And, we'd achieved amazing things. It was my first company. It was a company that, I challenge anyone to build a business like that from scratch in 7 years.
Joseph, I'm in no way trying to undermine what you built. What you did was fantastic. I just really wanted to get these few points out to address it. And the fact that you said you didn't make a profit from the company, that to me says a lot.
Yeah, I think there's been a few people that had looked at me, right, and I've seen it on social media, Wayne, and there've been people saying that I'm a con man or something like that. Like the company got shut down, right, and it was a Phoenix, and they bought the brand. It happens all the time. It's a law that's allowed to happen in the UK. It's absolutely horrendous for the people that get hurt. Mm-hmm. And I never set out to do that, that's not what any businessman would do. Right? I didn't benefit or gain from it, but what I did do in a very difficult time for so many was I managed to rescue 150 people's jobs. I managed to rescue ongoing business for these creditors, and keep going what this business had built. And, that was what my main focus was. It was a very hard time, a very difficult time for me, and I came out of it, a CEO, right? What I took from that business was not huge wealth, right? Because I started a new business, right? Yeah. So I didn't take huge wealth. I took experience. I took huge wealth and experience.
Yeah.
Right. I know how to run a national business with 150 staff and everything that takes, and how to deliver £1 million in sales a month. That was my value.
So on that, do you regret while you were building Impra that you sort of went after the one-man bands in your marketing? Like, that was one of the questions, because obviously with what you're doing now is to help them, whereas in your marketing 2 years ago, it was demonizing them. Do you see where I'm going with that? Like, do you regret that? Is that a decision?
If I remember what you're talking about, Wayne, so I remember there was a bit of an uproar about one of the brochures that we put out.
Yeah, that's correct.
That had a selection that said, look, this is British Gas, this is Impragas, and this is what like a sole trader would deliver. Yeah. All that competitor analysis was meant to deliver, was meant to show that not when you're going with a bigger company, you're not getting all of the same products and services. I love one-man bands. I was a one-man band. I hope you know from this podcast that I've come from a humble place. We're not trying to destroy one-man bands or their reputation. I didn't suddenly go, right, I'm going to kill off one-man bands and make them look like they're a load of shit. What it was one of our marketing team had an idea of how to show a customer in a home, if you buy from British Gas, you'll get this. For the majority. If you buy from us, you'll get this, you'll get this. I understand why people, but the end, everybody was just trying to shoot me down back then. Like, it didn't matter what I said. I was getting thousands of people trolling me out, saying I was a piece of shit, commenting on my looks, commenting on, like, it was just endless. Like every time I posted on social media, I had 50% love and 50% hate. And I never understood why I got hate, you know, especially because I was a hard-working young guy that battled on his own to build his business. Like, I've always thought people would give me respect for that, but it was a strange one. But look, I will personally apologize to any one-man band right now that ever got offended by that marketing. There was, you know, it was not a direct attack on you. I came from the trade. I love the trade. The trade gave me everything that I've got right now. And I'm supporting small businesses as much as possible, you know, and I want to help and I want to give back. So look, apologies if it offended you, but it wasn't my intention.
Any man can make a mistake, but a bigger man can apologize and realize it. So again, I appreciate your honesty. I really do. Last little bit on that. Do you have any regrets in the way that you handled the exit from Improgas? Do you think you should have maybe been a little bit? I'm not saying you lied. I'm saying a bit more transparent in everything that went on. Does that make sense?
So what? Saying that it was an asset sale from the very beginning? And
well, yeah, sort of not labelling it as. I think labelling it the minute you put the word sale in, everyone's natural presumption is that you've sold it and got a lump of money. That's just like human nature. If you sell something, you presume, and I'm not saying presumptions are right. I'm just saying people presume that money's changed hands and that you've benefited. So then obviously as things progress, and obviously then you see that the company's been split and the assets have gone one way and the debt and the liabilities are all being left. And so do you think you could have handled that better?
So what you've got to look at is so if somebody doesn't like the fact that we use the word sale, that's their perception, not mine. We sold, when we signed an agreement and transferred everything, it's called an asset purchase or an asset sale agreement. So we sold, we sold Impra. Yeah. That was what we sold, but we didn't go, you know, you're not going to go into the media and go, right, I dissected it, I stripped this bit, I stripped this bit, I stripped this bit, I stripped this bit. Look, we've sold it to this guy who's going to keep everybody's jobs intact. Yeah. They're going to go on to keep running the business. They're going to support the suppliers by continuing to give them work. They're going to support all of the self-employed people that we have in the business nationally. And it's positive. It's trying to create a positive story. The reality is, you know, if we'd have gone into administration, it'd have been a lot worse. Yeah. Then, you know, everybody would have been in a bad position. So you say you've always got to be thinking about, look, just because the terminology is due, that was a sale. It was a sale of Impra. They bought Impra. And, you know, we did some great things in keeping the staff, keeping the self-employed guys, keeping the brand going, supporting and serving existing customers. Those guys said they would honour all of Improgas's other customers. Like, so, you know, out of a bad situation, we created something good. As I say, people lost money. Business is tough. People don't always win. It's risky, whoever you work with. But nothing underhand was done. And, you know, I'm very sorry that people lost out. You know, that's not my intention. But I didn't win massively from it. I kept credibility in supporting my people and my staff and doing what I did. But, you know, I also learned a hell of a lot. And, you know, it was sad that it came across where people thought that.
I think it was like a mixture of some of the things that you did in the build of Impra. So like the strategy of where you'd offered 10 years free servicing. I remember there being lots of discussion, like how can this guy, how can you ever have a realistic chance of honouring that? So when then obviously as things unraveled and got to the point where the assets were sold, it sort of like highlighted, well, yeah, look, he was obviously only offering that. So that's where the word charlatan and stuff like that gets bandied about. So do you regret that strategy? Do you think that was a bit of a short-sighted getting this, where the way you offered 10 years servicing to people?
So what you've got to look at is, people found it difficult to compete, but every big company has strategy in terms of their offering. So whenever you look into terms and conditions, which was made very clear to our customers, if a customer wasn't able to book the service within a certain period of time, or they didn't have it within the 12 months, then the rest of the service plan would be void. So it was in the terms and conditions. They were very clear. So not everybody followed on with the service plan. So there was lots of ways that it made it viable. But look, my advice to every business is always to understand your competition. Now, why do you think Premier Inn advertises a room for 29 quid and you never go there and it's 29 quid? Why do you think car companies advertise Europa Car, advertise a car for 29 quid a day and you turn up there and it's 60 quid a day? There's very strict terms and conditions that allow for a marketing offer to proceed. People need to look deeper into business strategy, and also. But
there was a strategy to it. So you, at the time of you doing it, you had full intentions of it being a viable business, and it weren't just a matter of getting in as much cash in that time period before you then sold the assets. Do you see where I'm going?
Of course not. Of course not.
Okay.
No. Yeah. Why do you think I bust my ass to make a sale so the brand lived on and everybody got supported? Because in reality is, if I came away with nothing, I could have folded Impra and let it go into administration and walked away without all of this aggro.
Well,
so I bust my ass to save the company and everybody's job, and give work to ongoing suppliers, and for what? To what benefit to me, other than the fact that that's because I'm credible and I tried to make the best out of a bad situation. If not, I could have said, right, we shut the whole doors, walk away, Joe, move on and go and do what you've got to do.
So this is why I've asked these questions. This is why I've asked these questions, because I wanted the community, myself personally as well. We wanted to hear this, and I think you being so honest and open is a good thing. So, do you have a message to any of the smaller companies that obviously got hurt in the transition of everything going? So I know of a few people that were left with no payments on stuff, and is it just business and it's just the way it is?
It's sorry, but we were a big company. Like, my name's on the chopping block because I was CEO. But remember, we had 150 people. I had a team of senior management. I had shareholders and board of directors. Like, every decision that company made wasn't just mine. So I'm sorry for what happened. We gave you the work and we paid when things were going well and when we struggled. And if we didn't make any payments, it was because we were in trouble. And that's what happened.
Would you say you grew too fast? Do you think that was one of the pitfalls, or do you think speed didn't have any? Because obviously,
I think speed always puts pressure on things, and in hindsight, maybe we should have gone slower. Maybe we should have done things differently. But everybody can say that, Wayne, right? I bet there's a million things in your life that you said, look, if I'm looking back, we would have done it differently. I wish I didn't do that. I wish I made that decision there. I wish I made that call there. If I'd have done that, it would have been a lot different. 100%. Yeah. There is with everything. And nobody listening to this and nobody in the world can never say that they've made a wrong decision. And they can never say that they wish they didn't do things differently. And they can also say that they've never hurt anybody in their process of their life, in whatever shape or form it may be. And, people do get hurt, and people do get hurt in business. And, any small business that goes into business with big business, for future reference, make sure you're protected. Don't give credit more than you can afford to lose. Keep your conversations regular, just protect your downside. You shouldn't be exposing yourself with more money than you can lose.
This is sort of like the next question, to be honest. The next question was, what do you, with everything that's gone on with Impra and your career, what is it that you felt that your new company, Trade Masterminds, can do? What do you feel you can bring to these people? And you were starting to explain then.
So I think you've got to look at my journey, Wayne. So I've gone from one man in a van to running a national business. Impra delivered £1 million in sales a month. We created a national organisation, a national supply chain. We generate thousands of leads a month. I understand success. I understand failure. I understand exit, sale, administration, liquidation. I can tell you what not to do before you're about to do it. I can tell you what to do and what's the right thing to do. We lost a lot of money. We've made a lot of money in the past. But the reality is, right, you need a coach in business that has been to the top and has also seen what the back end looks like. Like one of my coaches that helped me, who had a £50 million car business that went into administration. He knew all of the processes that were coming when we were in trouble. So he knew what the reality was. Having that guy by my side at that point when things were going wrong, right, was probably the best thing ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
I've seen
a couple of people. Go on, bud.
Sorry. I was going to say, well, I had a company that went into liquidation, and I was on my own, and it was such a horrible experience. But on reflection now, like you just said there, that it gives me so much knowledge of noticing these warning signs in businesses. You know, I can spot, looking from the outside into some businesses and know, oh, they're heading to trouble, or, you know, they're doing this. Do you know what I mean? So I can sort of agree with you on that.
I think you got to look at this, right? So people are very short-sighted, I suppose, when it comes to looking at businesses. And, you know, if a business goes into administration or a business goes into liquidation, it doesn't necessarily mean that the people running the businesses aren't any good at running the businesses. There can be a whole host of different reasons. If we'd have made the sales we were going to make in December, we'd have had the cash and we'd have still been pushing on. Corona probably would have wiped us out from, you know, having to stop that business. But you can only control what you can control. Remember that. And that's every business owner. You can't control the market. Your business is about to pop because of Corona and your sales have dropped and you've run out of cash. You can't control that, right? You can only control what you can control. So you have to remember that. And if something negative happens, that doesn't mean that you're a bad businessman or, you know, and you don't know what you're doing. You know, I had a couple of people on Twitter when I put posts up saying, how on earth can you teach business when your business, you know, is half gone into liquidation and has half done a sale? I think that makes me so much more qualified to support businesses in what to do and what not to do than it does if I'd have just gone on to succeed. Markets change, you know, things get tighter. You mean, you look at box right now, all the plumbers are going to be switched on to this one. They must be destroying the sole trader market with their ridiculously low prices. And, you know, they became a massive competitor of ours in every single area. Well, their business model is to run their jobs at a loss so they gain market share. Well, how can you compete with that when you've got a traditional model? So, you know, things became very challenging. You know, I would say anybody that wants to be coached by me, look at the successes of what we did. £1 million a month in plumbing, right? It's insane. Building a national business, but there's not many independent organisations that have pulled that off. I can name Help Lincoln, Glow Green, and probably that's all. And remember that, you know, business is good. When the going good, the going's good. But what you need to be able to do is when you've had a problem, the whole point of a coach is usually to help you through problems. Because if you're winning, you're winning. You don't need help. You're loving it. So when you ring up and go, oh, no, we've just had this happen with the HMRC. Oh, no, we've had this case get brought against us. Oh, no, we, you know, lost our main MD, or, you know, whatever it is, what do I do? What do I do? Or we've had this opportunity for acquisition, or this opportunity for sale, or, you know, should we enter this new market? Is it profitable? And so on. That's where the value comes in, from that person's mistakes, not just from their successes. So, you know, that's why I know, and I'm very, very confident in my ability to be able to help people. And that's why I want to help people, because I was a plumber that started a plumbing business and I had no idea, you know, and I was very lucky to have built and got the support and the mentorship, you know, that I had from a lot of people at high level. And that taught me how to run a national company. So I want to give that back to, you know, as many sole traders that want to learn. Not everybody does. If you're happy with being a one-man band and that's what you want to do, then that's great. That's your journey. And I like to make sure that people are happy with what they're doing. Not everybody wants to run a national company. That's for damn sure. You know, and, you know, not everybody wants to be small. So just do what's right for you. But, you know, I always think, and you sound like, you know, this is the first time we've probably spoken, you're a positive guy. You know, you sound like, you know, you're wanting to win. And I like the things that you're talking about in terms of, you know, motivation and vision and end goal, because that's all my language. So I'd say just stay in your own lane, be motivated by your journey, and, you know, make sure that you're doing the very best for yourself, your business and your family.
See, I would always say motivation and inspiration gets you so far. It's revelations that you need to look for. You know, you need to look for them revelations that actually are life altering, rather than just short-term motivation and inspiration. Just a side note on, you used the word, so I just thought I'd throw that in.
Yeah, I like that. And like, you look at this one, I mean, just to put revelation, but I've seen a business go as big as it can go, and I've seen how to get out the other end. think of everything that I've learned.
Yeah.
Right. Do you think that will happen again in the next business? Definitely not.
No,
So
I can see.
And how many entrepreneurs, you know, they're down their first business, and you can take it as a pride hit, or you can say, you know, we did things right, we did things wrong, lessons learned. But you're only a failure if you don't learn from your failures.
Yeah.
Right. You can't repeat and make the same mistakes. Right. We're all human. We don't know what we don't know. When it's our first rodeo and we're going for it, we're learning as we go. So, you know, it's all about taking lessons. It's all about learning from those lessons, you know, and don't be a fool and repeat the same mistake.
Definitely. Right, we're going to have to. I've got 2 last questions I want to throw at you. A little bit more positive. You've answered all of them questions well.
Positive now.
I do. I know.
I've been raw with you. I told you the truth.
You have. You have, and I really do appreciate your openness, your honesty. So I do thank you for that. What would your if you had one bit of advice to give the people listening and anybody else right now to what one bit of advice would you give them?
Focus on your own journey.
Yeah.
Life's too short to worry about what other people are doing. Stay in your own lane. You know, you gotta be looking at yourself, looking at your business, looking at your life, looking at your family. You know, appreciate life is short, and you know, time is running out for all of us. So just make the most of it. And if you're unhappy, you know, and I speak to a lot of small businesses that are unhappy in where they are at the moment, then make a change. Please don't spend the rest of your life doing what you don't want to do. Make a change. Be brave, you know, because it can work out for you. And it might be the best decision that you ever made.
All right, thank you. And the last question then is a little bit of a visionary. Where are you going to be in, say, 10 years' time? What's the target in your sights right now for that?
So I think my aim now is the international stage. The only way that I stay motivated is by setting my goals massive. I want to build, I want to grow, I want to go international. I don't quite know what with yet, but you know, one of my main focuses, I felt like in the last 5 years from, you know, winning the Apprentice at 25 to where I am now, I had huge successes, and the world gave me a lot. The universe gave me a lot, and I took. You know, and now for me, it's about giving back. Like, I want to help people, share experience, add value, you know, teach people not to make the same mistakes that I made, but also, you know, give them the drive and vision that they can achieve and inspiration to go on and do it. And just making sure that I'm adding value to a whole host of people. We just launched something called the Big Brothers program, which is basically helping teenage lads from 12 to 18 years of age get support if they've not got like a dad in their life or anybody to look up to. And that's really cool. That's going to be starting in April. We've got a great bunch of young guys.
Could you share me the link for that so I can help? I love that. I saw that a while back that you were mentioning this. So if you can share the details with me on that as well, that'd be amazing.
That'd be great.
Right.
Yeah, and you know, that's it really. You know, go on to Grow the Trade Mastermind. We're launching Business Unleashed as well, which is basically a personal development company for all businesses, not just a trade. And I'm just going to ride out the corona and see where we go.
Right. Well, again, I'm going to just say thank you for Joseph for spending some time with me. I think we've been on nearly an hour and a half. So for you guys that are still listening, I appreciate that it's a long episode, but I feel it's been very valuable. I think Joe's answered some difficult questions. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Massive thank you and gratitude over to Joe for spending the time with me. Anything else you want to finally say on the final words?
Look, you know, I love the construction industry. I love sole traders. I love one-man bands. You know, if you ever need anything from me, you want to know about strategy or anything like that, then give me a message and I'll do my best to add value to you and your business. But, you know, once again, stay safe, take care with Corona, you know, and start planning for when the world starts again. I think you're going to get huge demand in the domestic market, maintenance and installation. People are going to be in their homes a lot. They're going to be using stuff and they're going to need services when it all kicks back in. So start prepping and put your strategy in now, ready to take the opportunities that come.
Definitely. Thanks again, Joseph. God bless everyone.
Take care, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. This episode was brought to you by Off the Tools in association with the Worcester Bosch 8000 lifestyle range.